banda? ¿Cómo estamos? Aquí los de la Libre, otra vez dando lata como siempre. Aquí se encuentra mi amigo el Cali, ya vive aquí conmigo. Y el azul, quién sabe dónde andan, en Juárez, El Paso, ese vato se la pasa en todos lados. Y hoy en este día es un día especial, tenemos nuestra primera entrevista en inglés. Es un hombre muy respetuoso, lo vamos a estar presentando, como les digo, ojalá y la mayoría de nuestros viewers sean bilingües y entiendan. So we have Mr. Evett, Peter Evett, and I know him. The other guys don't know him, but let's just we'll let you introduce yourself. Who are you, Mr. Evett?
Well, I teach at Bryan Adams High School with you in the Dallas Public Schools here in Dallas, and I, as you can see from the shirt, I'm a fan of Chelsea Football Club. In fact, I couldn't decide. I thought you guys might. I don't know. Maybe you would prefer. I don't know if you guys have real teams, but
okay.
I thought about wearing that one, but Chelsea played today, so I thought I'd wear that. Maybe I'll look at some of the other jerseys a little bit later. But,
although it didn't go too well for Chelsea today, unfortunately, right?
No, it didn't. Although from our, I thought, what do I have to offer to you guys? And I thought, well, I've got old white guy soccer fan perspective, which is something a little different. And so at least from the out of the disappointment, the great American kid, Christian Pulisic, really played great. He didn't come on until the second half when they were already down heavy, and he lit up. He's, of course, been on fire since the start back, and has played really, really well. And that's exciting. I mean, it's really exciting. One of the things
that's good for everyone. That's good.
Yeah, that is good for everyone. And you and I have talked a little bit about this, Profe. That if you're the thing I get most excited about is World Cup, right? Is the chance to participate, to compete. And my thinking has always been, I mean, it's a long, long, long way off before the United States could be equal of some of the top teams. But in the World Cup, of course, you just got to win that one, right? You got to. It's like that semi or that quarter. The ones where the Mexican team always gets robbed, over and over and over again. I mean, oh gosh, we could mention a lot of those years, but we won't. It's too painful. We don't want to do that.
I'm gonna start crying if you go there. So.
But my thinking always was, if you can get in that game against Argentina or Germany or Spain or somebody who's really on, and you can get 0-0, and you can get just that one moment of magic, right? That one moment of magic where you score, and Pulisic is a guy who can give you that one moment of magic.
I think so too. That's our Chucky Lozano, for example.
So exactly right. That guy who can be, something shouldn't happen here.
Right.
And all of a sudden, it does, out of nothing, right? It's like, these guys are hanging on, and Didier Drogba scores in the 89th minute.
Mr. Evett, I'm just very curious, before we start with the questions from the guys, why a Monterey jersey? Why not someone else?
All right, so I had a couple of students, 10 years ago probably, and then I started talking. I have very little experience watching Liga MX or even some of the earlier versions. It's kind of hard to follow. I don't have very good Spanish, so other than goal, it's kind of hard to I like the conversation a little bit. And I thought, I should have a team. And I thought, well, what would be a team to have? And, of course, all the kids are like, America. And I'm like,
don't say that either.
It's not going to be America. I'm telling you that right now.
That's his team.
Bless you. But I said, it's not going to be, it'd be like somebody in Europe be like, I'm going to be a Yankee fan or something. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. And I thought, what's the closest team? I'm like, Monterey is the closest team.
No more. We have Juarez. It's closer to you. Wait, yeah, it is.
It might be. It might be.
10 hours?
Well, my thinking was Monterey was the closest. That was what I was thinking as I looked at the map. And then, I mean, obviously there's a couple choices there, but one of my students says, you should go with the Rayados. And I'm like, why? He says, I've got a jersey for you. I was like, yes!
Sure, be good for them, right? That's right.
So he said, I got it when I was a little kid, back when I was your size. And so I got that. And
so this is what I told Cali and Azul. Of course, we're a podcast that we talk about soccer, but La Libre means we're free. So
sure.
We're probably going to be, this is the first interview in English, and this is going to be probably one of the first interviews that we talk about the other things in the world that we're trying to connect them back to soccer. So
sure, I'll think on that.
I live with Cali, so I know Cali's question is good. So
good, fantastic.
I have a couple, but I'm just gonna start with a simple one.
Good.
So apparently you have some soccer jerseys, and apparently you watch a lot of soccer. So did you play soccer when you were young? Club soccer, high school soccer, college soccer? What is it?
All right, so the answer is no. The short answer is no. I mean, I played intramural soccer, and it is one of my greatest disappointments. So here's a problem with being old. Soccer was like, what is soccer? When I was a kid. This is in the 1970s. And you know, the NASL got started, and that was the first real sort of big time soccer league in America. And I started watching it, but it never occurred to me to like go out for the team. And it was dumb because I'm a giant American football fan. I grew up in a college town. We had a great college football team, and I went and watched them play all the time. And I just had American football on the brain so badly. And then about late in college, and I was like, why didn't I play soccer? Because I was on the wrestling team in high school, and I probably would have been much better off doing the soccer team. And so I regret. I mean, I wasn't forward thinking enough in 1970, in the 1970s, to think of this sort of international sport, which just didn't have the publicity. Now I got a little boost because I had a buddy who played a little bit of soccer in college, and in 1977.
What college is this, Mr.?
This was at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and
I just came from close by there. I was living in Toledo for about a year. So.
Sure, it's a half hour south, man.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a good town. I like that. No, it's great in the summer. Better in the summer.
I was only there for the winters.
That's not so good. I'm glad you're back.
He's a musician. He likes soccer, but he decided to go into the musician path.
And anyway, this guy said, "Hey, man, I got tickets." And he took me to see Pele.
Oh, okay.
So the New York Cosmos were on a farewell tour, Pele's farewell tour. They were playing Santos FC, and then Pele would play half with one team, half with the other team. And of course, the Cosmos had Franz Beckenbauer and Giorgio Chingalia, and that was pretty exciting. Not quite enough to kind of get me, going. And then in '94, I had the luck of getting to go to the World Cup here. And I had a friend from England, and he's like, "We gotta get tickets." I'm like, "Sure, let's get tickets." So got to see a bunch of games at the Cotton Bowl, and sort of cemented my fandom. So the fandom comes without having really played, and I'm sad about that because I really should have played. But
what brought you from Michigan to Dallas then?
College in Tennessee, law school in North Carolina. I met a girl there from Bryan, Texas. She got a job in Dallas. I followed her here, and here we go.
Hey,
So-
I think he was gonna ask you something, which is it was.
Yeah. So you mentioned Pelé.
Yeah.
So you knew who he was. It was.
He was like Muhammad Ali level.
Yeah. Everyone.
Right. Even more than Ronaldo or Messi today. He was like you could ask people.
Social media, so I don't know if he was at the same level, but.
Well, I'm talking about recognition from non-fans.
Okay, makes sense.
That's what I'm talking about, right? So I'm talking about, hey, I don't even know what a soccer field looks like,
but
I know Pele.
Okay.
He was on like Coca-Cola commercials and stuff like that on TV, even though he was some guy who didn't speak English.
Right. Azul can barely speak English, but let's see if he has a question.
Yeah. So you've been watching football for a long time, and I don't know if you knew this, but FIFA just barely did a tournament of likes in Facebook to determine which was the best goal in World Cup history, and among those goals was the
Borghetti?
I think that might have been there, but no. One of them was the
not the hand
of
the hand of God.
There, goal in '86.
Yes.
The Pele goal and
50.
I don't know if
the bicycle.
I don't know if you know which one was the top choice, but if Profi could do the share screen, I would show you which one was chosen as the best.
All right, show me.
There you go. Hey, now we have a history lesson now.
Yeah.
Sure.
So this one was the one that was chosen in Mexico '86.
I know that goal. I seen it as a kid.
So this was it.
There's magic right there, look.
Oh, that is ridiculous! What a pass!
Wait.
So I wanted to get your
point. The number one?
Yeah, that was the number one. That was considered the best goal in World Cup history.
Well, that Bulgarian team is really good.
Point of view of which one you think was the best one.
Well, I mean, I can't. I'm gonna start by not arguing with that. I mean, because you got a volley for the pass, right? I mean, obviously, first you have the dribble, then you got a volley for the pass, right? He volleyed it and then volley it in
outside the box.
Unbelievable. That's unbelievable.
So, what for me is, I do remember a little bit of 2002, when my parents would wake me up 5 a.m. to watch some of the games, but I didn't know nothing. So 2006, from Germany all the way to Russia, I remember goals, games, everything. Which one was the first one that you're like, oh, this is the first World Cup? Because to me, I divide time into World Cups. It makes sense to me.
Well, I mean, so the World Cup championship was always on Wide World of Sports. So I saw the West Germans. I remember the West Germans winning in '74.
What was that? What?
So that's Franz Beckenbauer. He was the Kaiser, I think they called him. He'd been I don't know if it was Ballon d'Or, but he was FIFA Player of the Year 2 years in a row.
What country was the World Cup?
This is in
74.
I have no idea. 74.
82 was Spain. 86 was Mexico.
Yes.
90 was Italy.
Yes.
94 U.S.
U.S. Then France.
98 France. Yeah. So you said 74, right?
Yep. So I remember that, but it really, where I didn't really watch the whole. In fact, some of my passion for the sport kind of follows the growth of media in the United States. So of what is available to be watched, right?
I hit the spotlight in the 94, obviously.
Right. Now, obviously, and I went to the games in 94. I went to 6 games at the Cotton Bowl. Yeah, over at the Cotton Bowl, which is, oh my gosh, it was 100 damn degrees most of the time. It was crazy hot, but it's fantastic, obviously. But, I don't watch full. I watch about half of '98 because about half was televised, and then it's really not till 2006 I was in Europe in 2006, so I was able to watch all the games.
Yeah. That's
from
awesome.
all over the place there, which is fantastic. But
How's
in
the beer?
2010,
Is the beer fantastic? Better than the American beer, or how?
at the time, yes. At the time, yes. Now, but American beer is caught up a lot. It's a lot more flavorful beer.
According to Azul, is probably, he says in his words, is the best beer in the world. The one crafted here in the U.S.
It's gotten very good. There's no doubt. Now, I think the Belgians might complain most about that. Some great Belgian beer, but in any case, but it was like, so 2010, I watch every game. But it was really, the key there was about 2009 when the Fox Soccer Channel went on the air and broadcast the Premier League. And it was serendipitously at about the same time, a principal of mine went on a sort of a study trip in England, and I said, bring me back something from the Premier League, and she brought me a Chelsea scarf. And I'm like, all right, that's my team, I'm all in. And then, man, did they have some exciting years after that. So
especially that win in 2012.
2012. Oh my gosh.
You relax, because both of you guys know that I like Barca, so let's not get
He's
into
a Barca fan, so they owed us one from that robbery
Yes.
that happened at Stamford Bridge.
You got that right. Yep, a couple years earlier. That's right.
That's one of the worst scandals that soccer has. I mean, it was ridiculous. But okay, we're gonna hit a pause, and I'm gonna show you a little bit of something. We're gonna call it. I think I call it complete the phrase. So let's see if you can see it in the. Oh, not that. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with the first one. You can see it, correct?
Yes.
The FA Cup is
the coolest tournament.
and I want to.
I want to see Chelsea win Saturday. Actually, what I'd really like to do is I'd love to go to some of those like third round games when it's like Grimsby Town versus Manchester United, you know, and you got a bunch of like half the guys out there are like amateurs.
That's Azul's goal for next year. That's what he wants to do.
Let's hope for everything cooling up.
He said he'll pay for it, so that's why I'm going.
Awesome. I love that idea. Oh dear.
Good.
I could play back in the Cotton Bowl.
You want to drive all the way to Frisco?
I don't like driving to Frisco. Feels like driving to Oklahoma.
But you wish they.
Gosh, I wish that. I guess probably got those backwards. They could win the MLS if they. Except they couldn't participate in the MLS Cup because they got too much coronavirus.
Yeah, so it's not good.
I wish they would move back to the Cotton Bowl or back down here.
Me too.
Back when they were the Burn. That was fun. Oh my gosh.
The Mexican national team are.
I think they're the right age this time.
All right.
I think they were a little too young last time. God, you know they're going to get robbed. You know something. Some horrible thing is going to happen.
What do you expect for?
See, because I think they're one of those teams where they can win. Right? It's not ridiculous to say they could win.
Right.
It's been ridiculous to say they could win. Right? But I feel like they could win. Now, at various times they've degenerated into yelling at each other, and the coaches just have been so up and down. But things look really stable right now.
Seems like
And if the virus gets under control and gets out of the way, if we can get that past us, and they're gonna, I think that it's good for the U.S. and for Mexico to have each other playing well.
Of course.
Right? It's really good to get a chance to say, our great rival is actually good, as opposed to pretty good.
So
So they could make the United States, they could either win it or they could make the United States be stronger going in.
Right. So Mexican national team. Predictions for them and the U.S. men national team. Who do you think it will be going further into the tournament in 2020? No, this is 2022. I'm sorry.
Yeah, 2020. I would think that it'd be the Mexican team. I just obviously want the U.S. to be there after that embarrassment.
Let's start with that, sure.
That is too embarrassing. But I think the U.S. team is going to be much, much, much better, much improved. We'll see. They're going to have a young goalkeeper, so young guys can.
Stefan?
You never know. Yeah, that'd be my guess. So
he's good. I like him. He's a Man City goalkeeper.
Yep.
He
played in the Bundesliga this year, didn't he?
Someone told me this, and it's right to the spot. The U.S. national team will never have a problem with goalkeepers due to the fact that they use their hands.
Yep, you can put a tight end in it, play goalie, and be okay.
Right. With hand skills are really good here, so they will not have a problem.
That should always be our strongest position. There's no doubt. And we've had pretty solid goalkeeping. Tim Howard, I remember never forget the 21 saves or whatever against Belgium. That was bitter. Okay. My favorite sport book.
I seen your booklet, so it's exciting.
No, you're right about that. Okay, I'm gonna come back to that one. I gotta think on that one a little bit. I stuck my sport book collection out in the hall. I'll go out and take a look at it maybe. My favorite all-time athlete? Y'all are asking some tough questions here. Let's see. When I was a kid, there was a quarterback for the Michigan Wolverines named Ricky Leach. And he was a charismatic and nice kid, and the team was awesome. They lost a total of 5 games while he was there, and he was fantastic. And since I was a kid, that I think I remember him most dearly.
You think we can find highlights of him? So maybe put it as a teaser before we put your interview.
Okay, I'll see if I can find something. It's 1970s. I don't know. I can look at that. And I loved Kirk Gibson, who played both college football. He was an All-American, and then he played for the Detroit Tigers and then for the Los Angeles Dodgers. He had a famous home run in the World Series for the Los Angeles Dodgers, but I remember him hitting a home run better for the Detroit Tigers earlier, and I always loved him because he was one of those guys who's just like, we are going to win. We are going to win, and if you don't play like maniacs, it's no, right? There's some of those guys, Michael Jordan-esque guys, have that charisma where they're just like, everybody will now play their very best, or I will break you. And I think that there are some guys like that.
What about in the soccer world?
So in the soccer world, the all-time hero is clearly Didier Drogba. Hang on.
True. We talk about it. I mean, come on. Hey!
Come on, baby.
All right.
Ivory Coast.
Hey, that's a good color.
Here's a guy. I mean, obviously, amazing talent.
Athlete. But as a person,
but a great person, right? They're having they're doing their World Cup qualifier, and there's chaos in the streets, and Drogba says, "Give me the microphone." On the field, says, "Please stop fighting. Please stop the fighting. Everybody watch the game." And so they stop the fighting, and I'm going to stop the Civil War. Everybody come watch the game. I'm like, all right, we should do that.
That's a type of guy. He's that type of guy.
That leads perfectly into like what I was about to ask you. So the French national team, they a lot of people discredit them from their 2018 World Cup win. because a good portion of their players are from African descent.
Sure.
And they say that as if it was bad, as if. And I would argue that it actually proves the point that diversity is a good thing, and
why do I agree with that?
And I would like to get your opinion on why on the French national team and their players, and
sure.
Why doesn't that happen? It's not maybe as big here in the United States with their men's national team.
Well, now, first, FIFA's got pretty lax rules about nationality. It's one of your parents' right? Have to have a connection, and you're in. So, but I do love. I mean, in fact, I love the French example. Thanks for asking that. Here is a place that has had some. I mean, a lot of European nations have had this challenge, right? They're not used to immigration. They're not used to it in Europe like we've been used to it for a century. And obviously, we have our own serious problems with it. We can get back to that in a minute. But the idea of half the French team are black and brown men, and the French, I assure you, loved that team. And I know, and I was in France for the Cup one year, and they've got the fever, right? People are out partying and watching. And I agree with you that is a wonderful opportunity for not just France, but for the world to see this rainbow hue of people taking the field. It is also additionally, I suppose, if we went back to 150 years ago of the French establishing this empire and doing not good things.
Yeah.
Across large portions of Central and North Africa, and even as late as the 1960s, having civil war in Algeria and refusing to give those people their independence and finally doing so. It's just really cool, right, to see this success story come out of it. Because one of the things you see, sometimes you get news from France and it's, they've got a terrorist, or they're having real problems with a large number of Middle East people coming in from Syria and Jordan, old French colonies, and the difficulties they've got with immigration. And then all of a sudden the whole nation's rallying to, N'Golo Kante and Mbappe and all, it's like, wow, this is pretty cool, right? These guys are really awesome.
So I think it did happen in the '98 too, when they won the World Cup. That was one of the first times that and it was very controversial at that time, that they had a lot of people that they were not descendants. They were
right. Of course, Zidane was the real guy, right? And he's not from France, right? It's like, but he was amazing.
The thing is that either the ethnicity, the race, the color is more about the people. To me, I don't like some Mexicans, and I'm Mexican, and it's like, dude, like, get out of my face. I don't like you. And they might be, I don't know, an Arab or someone from Asia that I'm like, hey, I like you a lot. Mm-hmm. So it's not necessarily that they're Asian or they're Mexican. It's just the fact that it's just a combination of the personality, who the person is. So I think we make that mistake as a society, that because they're a color, everyone is the same.
Yeah, I think you guys are pretty young, right? For old timers like me, it's harder. It's been harder, right? We grew up in a different time with different ideas, and one of the things, again, referring back to that French team, that great team, had that great run. I actually couldn't really, if you just gave me almost just gave me a list of players, I wouldn't be able to necessarily be able to tell you who looked like he was from, who looked like he was from Paris and who looked like he was from Africa. I do, in some cases, but not in certainly all those cases, because you start to not see it, right? Which is the real goal.
I think it was only Hugo Lloris and Pavard that they're French. Griezmann is, I think he was born in Portugal. Giroud was born in Italy, and everybody else was a descendant from either Algeria or Africa. Every single one. So it's only 2 from those 11 that are from France. So I mean, it's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, well, everybody, of course, that's the reach of the darkness of imperialism having a positive.
Diversity,
in the long run.
competition, good things.
No doubt about it. Totally agree with that.
Do you think that we could see more of that in the U.S. men's soccer team?
So what we've seen is, so they bring in Jurgen Klinsmann, who I did see play, by the way, back in '94. he was in the, I saw West Germany. I mean, the newly unified German team play. But he had the idea of bringing in the kids of American servicemen who were playing in the Bundesliga.
I remember that.
And he started bringing in some of these guys, and I mean, some of those guys. Who's that the midfielders? The guy mostly I'm thinking of. But anyway, they guys who could barely the guys who could barely speak English, and he's bringing them in because he's like, hey, everybody in the world. Certainly the French are doing it. Certainly everybody in the world is trying to, hey man, let's bring in anybody who wants to have a shot and get him in here. And so the difference now is obviously we have much stronger youth programs here in America than
it's growing
ever before. And now, obviously that is in fact probably long term the best thing about the success of the MLS, right? Because obviously it's not elite. It's not an elite league. It's a good league. It's not an elite league, but all of those teams have strong youth programs, right? And they're all pushing their youth programs, and that's fantastic, obviously, for the American team. So what I'm interested in and don't know is there this bit in there's less American servicemen stationed around the world now than there used to be. Is there still that would seem to me to be the most likely way that somebody would be like, hey, I'm connected back to the United States, would be through some sort of military personnel. Other than, say, the Philippines, which America colonized, because we just didn't have that any sort of lasting presence anywhere. Instead, people have come here. And partly, heck, I'm sitting here talking to you guys and you're all wearing masks. I mean, because a culture, right, which is now our culture. Right, we're finally doing a much better job. And we've done this before. It's not totally unusual. Of instead of so much that we would be calling to, hey, do we have guys who are playing down in Argentina? Or, hey, do we have guys who are playing in Japan? It's more like, hey, those guys have moved here, and now they are us.
Hey, I think you told me something funny, but it's true. At one point, America's going to say that tacos are from the U.S.
Oh, there's no doubt about it, right? Yeah. The greatness of immigrants coming to our country has always been the things we've most complained about when they first get here. Right? These strange-looking people, they talk funny language, they eat funny food. And then, of course, turns out pizza's good. Turns out hamburgers were good. It turns out tacos are good. Right? And then they become American.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? Pizza's American food. Hamburgers are American food.
And they're not.
Tacos are going to be, right? It's going to be, when people say, let's go eat American 20 years from now, they're going to go get tacos. I'm telling you that right now. Which is awesome.
Okay, talking about tacos, before we go anywhere else, I had another one for you. Just hold your question, guys. It's quick questions. His name is Gordy. He's the one that usually does this type of things, but I'm giving him credit right now. I'm just gonna copy. I'm gonna say a word or a phrase in Spanish. Let's see if you can translate it or you know the meaning. Let's see how much Spanish you have learned from all your Hispanics in the class.
Oh, it's not good. It's not good. You're gonna embarrass me. All right, it's good. Go.
Ready? Let's say, ya me quiero ir.
Quiero ir?
Ya me quiero ir.
I got none of that.
No.
I got none of that. That's embarrassing. I've lived in Texas for 30 years. What is wrong with me?
Okay, let's make it a little easier.
Yeah, make it
Okay.
a word. Make it a word.
Okay. Chingazos.
Chingazos. Nope. Fighters or fighting?
Fighting. That
Yeah,
you-
see, that's starting point of some bad words that I don't want to
Well,
say.
yeah, it can go there. Okay, what about menudo? What is that?
That's tripe. That's intestines. That is not good. No offense to anybody's mom. No offense to anybody's mom. It's the texture. I can't do it.
So
The soup is good. The broth is good. But it's slimy. Can't.
Yeah. So you rather eat pozole?
Yes.
Pozole.
Yes. Yeah. Sure.
There's red and there's green. I mean, it's just Mexican has color in our food.
Yes. Fantastic.
Fantastic. What about one more, and it will be a phrase. Quiero ir al baño. Come on, you need to know this one.
Where's the bathroom?
Well, you got the bathroom part right.
At least we got that.
We'll leave it at that.
Y'all are too kind.
Before, so you need to perform a little better. Cali, so he told me the question, and I'm like, hey, that's a good one.
Yeah, that one. I'm gonna be becoming a Spanish teacher. If you need some lessons, just let me know.
Boy, I sure do.
We were trying to get him to be my assistant.
Oh yeah, I was hoping to, but didn't happen. Okay, I'm just gonna give you a quick scenario. So El Profe, Lazu, and myself, we all got enrolled for history soccer with Mr. Evett. For the final exam, you give us a study guide. What three main events in soccer are gonna be in the final exam?
That's good. I like that. Woo. That is good.
The Drogba one needs to be there, in my opinion.
Well, so I'm trying to decide. I mean, because of course, there's. I mean, if that's a moment, if it's a single moment for me, it's Drogba scoring in the 89th minute in the championship. Ridiculous, right? Their first corner of the game.
And the PK.
That team wasn't very good. That team was not very good. But they played with crazy heart, and Drogba was that guy, right?
Yeah.
He's the miracle man. Like, we're doomed. Just get it to Drogba. He'll score. And then wins and gets the penalty, or he gets the last of the kicks at the end.
What about two more? Maybe
That's one. And then we'll go with man, I want to say that. I'm not going to do that though. Now what I would say is I'm interested in, do you guys know who won the first two cups?
Uruguay was the first one.
Didn't Uruguay win both of them?
I'm not sure.
He won the 1930, which was the first one, and then they won another one, but I don't know if it's back to
No,
back.
they won the second one in Brazil in the 50s.
In the 50s. Okay, that when the cup first went to South America.
They beat Brazil in Maracanã.
When they thought that when the Brazilians they said that everyone thought they were going to be champions because they were
Yes.
at home, and
Yes.
then They lost the final.
From the 30s, stopped because of World War II, right? And
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
So I think as history, we have to know, and in fact, there's two critical eras about the World Cup. So let's start with that, where the Europeans assumed they were the best, right? The Europeans assumed, for being Europeans,
I mean, they started in England, that's why.
Right. I mean, they assumed that they were the best, and they could not, and they just kept on losing, right, to the South Americans. And I think that was the moment when soccer really becomes world sport. And so I think that's a moment. So that moment in history, that's kind of a big picture. So we'll call it, Kali, we'll call it theme. We'll call it theme of football becoming the world sport and not Europe sport. Okay. And then the next thing I'm going to say, this, you guys might think this is a little too small. We're going to go to the Premier League in 98.
We love the Premier League.
97, when the FA, the Football Association, changed their rules about the numbers of non-English players you could have on your team, and greatly increased the numbers so that the Premier League could go out and recruit top players from around the world. And that was the next stage in, I think, in football becoming this
global
media-powered global event as well. Was the fact that suddenly, because one of the things that was cool about the World Cup, and is still sort of cool about the World Cup, is it was awesome and people were super into it because our players never play against their players. We don't know who any of the guys are on your team. You know, you guys show up and you're from Bulgaria and we're like, who the heck is on your team? And then all of a sudden you're awesome, right? But we don't get to play against you because we don't play each other in leagues. And then all of a sudden, you know, Barca did small amounts of this because there's some, but mostly it was in Europe, right? Some interaction with the Dutch players and so on. But when you're bringing in South Americans to come play in the Premier League, and I think that in Spanish players and more Italian players, that all of a sudden you've made it so that league soccer is now this sort of flexible thing. And that's what I want to see more of for both the Mexican League and the MLS in the future. Because I love it when, like, you know, Dallas usually gets a couple players coming out of South America on the team, but I'd love to see more of that for both of the leagues, and because I think it would help both the leagues to be, you know, have a greater variety of players. So that's another theme about globalization. In this case, it's more media-driven globalization, but still, of soccer. So that's thematic. So rather than specific events, I'm going to go with my favorite event. We'll go with Drogba. That game at the Camp Nou was.
Mr. Evett, come on. I'm about to end this. Hey, he lives with me. He lives with me, and he knows I get emotional.
So, talking about the media phenomenon that's become football.
Yeah.
Do you think that it's a little? What's your? I don't want to word it that way. What would be your opinion about it becoming a little bit overwhelming at some point? You know, there's so many teams to follow. There's so many leagues, so many players. I mean, there's just so much that you could do before you.
Well, I think that I think in terms of positive, the one negative possible concern would be the big leagues, right? The big European leagues they get so much money from their TV deals, from their media deals, that they come to dominate so much that it just causes a gradual reduction of other leagues around the world, and that the game might suffer in the long run because there'll be less homegrown talent making their way up. I don't think that's likely to happen. That'd be the concern that I think would stem from the media issues that you've got. But I see more positivity. And, you know, this country is a great example of that. I mean, a great example of that, and that is hey man, we're Americans. You can't watch it on TV. I'm not into it. It's got to be on.
Man,
it's got to be on.
Volleyball is amazing, but they don't televise it, so we don't really like it. That's
right. I mean, it's got to be on. And if I'm a kid and I'm 12, and it's like, hey, am I going to play club soccer or am I going to play basketball or whatever? Soccer better be on TV, man. Right? I better be able to go out for the Chelsea team here in Dallas or the MLS team or something like that. And so, I mean, that has been the goal of FIFA. FIFA is such a Byzantine and poorly run organization. They haven't nearly taken advantage of it like they should, but that's been their goal since they granted the cup to the United States in '94, even though we certainly from a soccer perspective didn't deserve it at all. Although still, by the way, most attended World Cup ever in the United States, the '94.
2026 is probably going to beat that number.
Yeah, that probably will. You're right about that. Although they may play some games in some of our beautiful soccer stadiums. That would cut the numbers down. It
has been a pleasure. We're probably going to have to bring you back because it's just way too much to talk about with you. Hey, maybe we even offer you a job and but hey, you need to find one of these ones.
I'm going to need to think in terms of real freedom is what I'm going to need to. Okay.
Exactly. Okay, so thank you very much. Raza, aquí andamos. Ojalá y seamos bilingües.
Thank you, gentlemen. Play on. It was wonderful.